The following episode of the Comics and Crypto podcast is for informational purposes only, and anything expressed by the hosts or their guests is solely their opinion. This podcast does not constitute financial advice, and anyone wishing to invest should seek their own independent financial or professional help. Have fun and enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Sean O'Hare, and I know comics.
Hi, I'm Spencer Vogel, and I know crypto.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lee Loader, and I don't know shit. This is the Comics and Crypto podcast.
Comics and crypto, crypto and comics, collectors world in a digital age. Comics and crypto, crypto and comics, it's where the next billionaires will be rich. It's comics and crypto.
How many things do you collect, man? I mean, you're like ripping off a list. Like,
It's wild, Reggie. I will say that VeVe actually kickstarted my love and obsession with the collectible space. But
okay,
more so the people that I've met in this community have kickstarted my love and excitement for other things like video games and VHS tapes. But now I'm looking back at like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards from the early 90s, late 80s. And it's like, what? I never thought I'd get back to that. I bought a box of 1994 Flair Major League Baseball cards just for the hell of it. Because that was and I pulled a Ken Griffey Jr. card, who's my favorite player of all time.
do you have kids? Do you have
Yeah.
kids?
Not
Oh,
yet.
see, there
Yeah.
we go.
yeah. I know. I don't want kid.
There you go. I'm a one vice man. I can only have one vice at a time because that's all that I can get away with. Okay. Now I have multiple things within that vice, but I only really collect one thing, and it's been, fairly consistent, right? I collected back in the 90s. I got out of it. I collected again in the 2000s. I got out of it. Now I've been back since 2017, just all in. But I've essentially collected one thing primarily my entire life because I can only handle one vice. That's it.
Yeah, it's becoming a lot, especially on the digital collectible side too, because I mean you could buy those instantly. Oh man, it's
And you don't have to worry about storage.
that's real storage and yeah.
You beat me to it, Spencer. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about storage. You don't have to worry about insurance. It's all right there on your phone. You're good to go, or in the cloud, or wherever the heck they put it. But I think I saw something you put up the other day. Did I see 600 in some odd collectibles for you? Is that what I saw?
Yeah. It's at about I think 1,300 now for comics and collectibles. Yeah, which is crazy because it's not even. I'm probably maybe on the medium side. There's people who have over 10,000 collectibles.
Are you
15,000.
serious?
Oh yeah, there are some massive whales in this community.
And that's why I can't get my stuff on VeVe because of you people. I go to the VeVe, I'm like, boom, I'm about to get this cool book. It just dropped. Let's go get it. Oh, that's sold out. Get it in the marketplace. I'm like, thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
I but between VeVe and Wax and like the engine and like I have thousands. They're just
Do you really?
yeah. Oh yeah.
So wait a minute. When Sean said, well, was he referring to you?
Not quite. No. I have a modest collection,
Okay.
but I've been involved with NFTs since 2018 though. So
Oh, really?
I've had some time.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And again, I love all forms of collectibles, and I respect anything that people collect. I respect all of it, right? Like we don't all have to collect the same thing, right? Like I used to be in the classic cars, and it's like I love other people's classic cars, but there was only one classic car that was my car, right? And it's just you appreciate what other people enjoy, but you also just have your thing, whatever that thing or those things are. I think it's all good because it's all in the same spirit of like nostalgia and collecting and sorting and organizing. It's all the same thing, caretaking, whatever you want to call it. It's generally all the same stuff. Making money,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with the psychology of a collector,
Mm.
and especially for these physical collectibles. I mean, we're seeing this exact same thing happen on the digital side. So that's why I know it's real. And going in person and meeting people and talking about their collection and the things that they've been physical collectibles and they're now buying because of the digital. That's where we get excited. That's where we're like, okay, this is amazing because we're like bridging these two worlds together. That's a really big priority for us.
And that's why I don't think that physical collectors of things should be upset with those that choose to collect digital things. I don't think that we should be fearful of NFTs. And I think I said this when you were on the show. I think we should try to understand it because it could also be another aspect of the hobby that folks might enjoy. The same way that people buy comics and they go buy the action figure and they pose the action figure next to the actual comic, right? And they get the what are those bobblehead things called? The pops. They
Funko,
get the pops.
Funkos, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they wear the shirt, and like they're
Yeah.
in this little, they're collecting all these little things. To me, to some degree or another, the digital NFTs are exactly the same thing. It's another aspect of the hobby, but more importantly, getting back to what I mentioned earlier, you have DC and Marvel that recognize the value of their IP, and they are working with VeVe and others to put that IP out there in the digital space, which in my mind bodes well for physical collectors. You get more people interested in Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Miles Morales, whoever it is. Some of those people will eventually find their way to a movie theater, to Disney Plus. They will find their way maybe to an LCS, or to buying something from a website where a physical collector is selling that thing. And I think like that intersection you spoke about, I think that that's what's really important, is we have to acknowledge that some of those people will come over, and you have to be willing to welcome those people, even though their pathway to the hobby was different from yours.
We haven't even had a chance to talk to you about Bat Cowls, huh? Have you... that's a whole different episode. We'll go back to
Man,
that.
those Bat Cowls are so expensive.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's, I don't know. It's been really cool to be a part of that journey though. And just
Yeah.
like, you know, Jim Lee, like, is like, he's spearheading the whole thing. Like he's right behind it. He's like responding to people on Twitter. He's
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah. Like, we had an interview with Matt Mason, who was used to be the chief content officer for Palm NFT, and he told us stories about, you know, working with him and how he would just like, they were like, oh, he won't have time for that, and then he would just drop everything to, you know, to be involved and work with us. And yeah, it's just to see his passion for it. It just gives me a lot of confidence in what the future brings.
And I think the reason for that is that Jim Lee is a creative guy, and he recognizes the potential that could come from this physical space. You know, I think the Bat Cowls are cool, man. And I think that how they've tried to merge the digital with the physical is part of what makes it work, right? Because it's not just a digital asset, right? They are setting aside a certain amount of things for these people that own the Bat Cowls. They're giving them early access to stuff. They're doing special reveals for them. It is, yes, I bought this Bat Cowl, but it also gets me real stuff. It gets me some freebies, right? And I think he was saying like, you know, we wanted to, if they spent $300, they're getting $300 worth of stuff.
Oh, we have too.
Easily have gotten $300 worth of value
And
already.
I think that's one of the big things is like, I think some people fear the digital because they're like, it's just a digital thing. Well, not in this case, not in the case of the Bat Cowl. It is both a digital and a physical thing spread out over time. I think he said it's like a 2-year pathway that they've mapped out. And it's like, I don't think they really knew how this was going to go. I think they were being just creative people experimenting, and we're like, oh, we think that we just hit on something. That's pretty cool.
And it starts all the way at the top. You have David and Daniel Heyman, and David Heyman is one of the biggest producers ever at Warner Brothers. He produced all the Harry Potter films. And yeah, these Bat Cowls, the way they dropped them too was awesome, because it gave everybody an opportunity to own one. They said they had up to 200,000 possibilities. But they're going to stop selling them after 24 hours, I think 24, 48 hours. And then it turned out there's
whoever wanted to mint them, that's
only
how many there
11,000. Only 11,000. That's it. And it's turned into actually like a standard avatar project, and they're very limited.
I think that how that all came together, you know, the technical side, the entertainment side, mixing with the IP from DC, I think it's working incredibly well, right? And how they release some of, not the pre-Bat Cowl stuff at Fandom, I think that was well done. Like, it seems like their whole mission is with Palm, and you guys have to correct me, it seems like their whole thing is to expose more people to NFTs, to open people's minds to the possibilities. And so, you know, I feel like VeVe is more for like collectors, investors, whereas the Palm is more like for the masses. We want to put it out there and get people exposed to it. Two different approaches by Marvel and DC through the partners that they have chosen to work with, and both are successful. I mean, from at least what I've seen, both are successful, even though they're taking different paths. And again, that just shows that there's so much possibility out there.
Speaking of successful, last year you started your own original comic book series.
Yeah.
It's called Isolation. Congratulations, Reggie.
Thank you, brother.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the series and the inspiration behind it?
It's a money pit. That's what I'll tell you. Money pit. Worst investment ever. It's a money pit. Isolation came out of, so everything that I've done lends itself to the next thing, right? So the YouTube channel put me in a position where I was able to acquire a collection of 100,000 comics. Having 100,000 comics allowed me to put out more content because I had a lot of comics to look at. The content from the channel helped me to meet a really fantastic writer by the name of Doug Bratton, who came to me with an idea for a guide to smart comic collecting. So we co-wrote a guide that was released last year. It was 90 pages to help make collectors smarter about the hobby. So if you were newly returning, whatever it was, we have something in this guide for you. And the success of that, we sold 4,200 copies of this guide, sold out 4,200 copies. That is a lot. I hear Overstreet only sells about 10,000 copies. So I sold 42.
Reggie, nice.
If those numbers are off, then it's Sean's fault. Okay. Overstreet, don't blame me. So the success of the guide gave me the confidence to do the comic. And Doug came to me last year around Thanksgiving. He's like, I've got this idea. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? He's like, I'm going to send it to you, but don't read it until after the holidays. I sat down and read it immediately because I have a bias for action. So I read it and I was like, let's do it. So we ended up pulling together a really awesome team of creators from the Kubert School that are doing all of the artwork, all of the lettering. And we have put out 2 issues in 2022, and they did pretty well. And the 3rd issue we just wrapped up, and we're waiting for it literally to arrive here at my house. Hopefully this week it will be mailed to me. So we're excited about that. But essentially, Isolation is a horror story. And it is a horror story that has an overarching time period in 1992. And there's 3 distinctive periods over time in which some murders happened in a place called Isolation. And so you have a woman in the present day trying to figure out what happened in this place called Isolation. Why do we not have any information about this organization or this town, even though all these murders happened? And so Doug is telling this really wonderful story that people seem to enjoy. And in the spirit of indie comics, back to the 80s, in the spirit of indies, it's a black and white comic, but it's not just black and white. It's actually hand painted black and white. Each and every page of the comic, each issue 1 and 2 was hand painted. The artist spent 3 days painting those pages that ultimately were sent out to people. So incredibly talented team from the Kubert School, incredibly talented writer, Doug Bratton. Just, I can't draw to save my life, but I get a chance to work with some really cool people to put together some good stuff.
I was blessed to be at San Diego Comic-Con.
Beth did that. Beth Charlin did that. And it's a con exclusive. She is more of an abstract artist, and she crushed that piece. It is incredibly well done, super talented woman. And again, I can't draw to save my life, but I can recognize talent, and I can pay talent and represent that talent. And so it is a money pit because it costs a lot of money to produce this stuff. And we pay our artists what Marvel and Boom pay their artists. We pay industry rates, and I pay all of that out of my pocket. So the money from the channel goes to Isolation, and we produce Isolation and we put it out there, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. And fingers crossed, we may actually make a profit. That's the goal. It's not just to sink money into it, but it is actually eventually to make a profit, continue putting out really good content for people to enjoy, and to give really talented artists and writers a platform to do some cool stuff. There's a chance I may actually be coming out with a 2nd comic as well.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Some alpha released right here first. You heard it here first.
Well, if people watch my last live stream on my channel, I released it after the end credits. So I ran the credits.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Well, Marvel action
only
nice.
True comic book soldiers stayed until the end. my Patreon members, they know, and then I announced it at the tail end of a show just last week. But I don't think it's widely known just yet. We still have not inked the deal, but it looks good. It's a really cool comic, and if I'm able to do it, I think people will enjoy it. I really do.
That's amazing. Nice. And what's the best way for our audience to get updates on the announcements?
RegieCollects.com. Yeah, RegieCollects.com is probably the best way. following the YouTube channel, Regie Collects, following me on all the platforms. It's always the same, Regie Collects. It is out there. Instagram, they can follow me there, but I try to provide timely updates across social media for people when news breaks. So if you tap into it, you will see it. The challenge is one of my creators' mothers missed out on the Kickstarter that we did. She sent me a message and I was like, ma'am, unfortunately, we've sold out of issue 3.
Yeah. Yes.
I had to give her the bad news, and I was like, I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can
Oh.
some damaged copies to pull together for you. But
Yeah.
you know, Isolation is a really cool project. You know, and what I do is so people are like, well, if you can't draw, what do you do? My job is to pull it all together, right? It is to hire the creators. I pay the creators that work on the project. I interface with the writer to ask really smart questions. I'm like, where is this going? Is this what we want to say? Is this the right language, right? I tweak some of the verbiage, but basically my job is to create the environment in which these really cool, creative people can do their best work. Like, that's my job, not to get in the way, but to create the environment where they can be successful, and ultimately then to get the thing proofread, to get it laid out, to get it printed and then mailed out to people. And then I do all of the marketing. So I do a lot of the business stuff and the editing, not so much the creative part.
So everyone out there, Reggie is also an amazing producer.
I try, brother. You know, my thing is there's a lot of really talented people out there. And you know, my talent is trying to create an environment where those talented people can do their best work, right? I give input, I ask questions, I pressure test, and this is at work and at play, right? It's all the same thing. And it's like, I try to hire and work with really smart people, and I ask them these questions, I give them guardrails, and then I let them rip. Because Doug manages the creative team, and he does such a great job of taking the written word and turning it into a visual supported by words. And every issue is really cool. And I cannot wait for people to see issue 3 of Isolation, because there are some fight scenes. It's a graphic comic, right? And in the sense it's a graphic novel, but it is also graphic. Issue 3 is, if there were blood, if there were colors, it would be bloody. It's really cool because the Isolation, even though it's an indie project, it has been embraced by a lot of comic shops. I think we had 9 comic shops that were actually selling Isolation because of my relationships through the channel. So we have places like JFA in Pennsylvania. We have Captain Can in Canada that carries it in Canada, right? So we have Nirvana in Tennessee that carries it. So it's been really cool because of what happens with the channel. I'm able to reach out to comic shops and say, hey, I'm Reggie, I have a comic. And they're like, oh, we know you. And so it's cool because they're willing to carry the book, and their customers seem to enjoy it. And we've had some shops that have bought as many as 500 copies of Isolation, which is crazy.
Wow.
That's
That is
amazing.
a lot of copies, brother.
Yeah.
Any Bay Area comic shops?
No, they need to step their game up. And I'll be honest with you, man, I miss the Bay Area, and not because of anything other than the comic shops. The comic shops in the Bay Area were some of the best I've ever seen. Some of the best shops ever. You go in there, they have amazing Silver Age comics, oftentimes behind the counter. And if you ask the right question, you get the deep dive in those books, and it is amazing. Because we don't have that here in North Carolina. It is sad. It really is. It is sad. California, Bay Area had some amazing shops.
Reggie, it's been so great having you on. And before we close out, I got one last question for you. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to new comic book investors?
Be smart. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? It is be smart about where you choose to focus your attention, where you buy from, what you buy, why you buy, how you spend your money, how much you spend. Be smart and have fun. Because at the end of the day, man, whether you're reading this stuff, stacking it in a box, just flipping through it on your phone because it's a digital asset, have fun with this stuff. I smile when I come here in the comic book room because I'm surrounded by bits of my childhood and things that I've wanted for a long period of time that I now have. And I have a wall behind me of really cool stuff that just makes me smile. And I'm having fun. It's why the YouTube channel, that's why the 100K collection, that's why isolation, that's why I collect what I collect, because I'm having fun.
Oh, Reggie, it was so amazing having you on today. Thank you so much for coming on. And everyone out there, make sure to follow Reggie at Regie Collects and keep an ear and eye out for isolation.
War's coming soon.
Yes, let's go.
People don't know that yet.
Oh. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. And Reggie, I hope to have you on again soon.
For sure.